Thank you so much, Taylor, for joining me. I'm super excited to have you here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, Gabrielle. I'm excited to be here. Such a big fan of what you're doing and, happy to contribute.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So, CEO of Cliquish, who, what, when, where, why? Yeah,
um,
it's so beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So speaking of, my background is in branding, marketing, communications. And so obviously that aspect of business is really important to me. But I started Cliquish in 2018. And it was in my work as a marketing consultant where I was working with different clients who wanted to do like influencer marketing campaigns. And I was introduced to the industry. It was kind of in its very infant stages of what a blogger is or influencer is and the monetization aspect of things. But it was through that I was like, wow, there's so much opportunity here, but no one's really kind of streamlining education or messaging or really helping influencers understand how to be entrepreneurs. And so, it was that really beautiful mashup of the fact that I have a passion for entrepreneurship. I understand influencer marketing and marketing campaigns. I really have that aerial viewpoint of things. But then I also have a teaching background. So I understand, how to break down complex topics and explain them in a way where people can understand it, gather it, and apply it, right? So Cliquish is this beautiful mashup of all of those things. And so we are an education destination for bloggers, influencers, and content creators who want to learn the business of influencer marketing.
Elevator pitch. Take a note. Okay. So, so I know with a lot of influencers and really kind of anybody looking to position themselves as an authority in their industry, you kind of become an influencer, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what, and the big word we hear in the industry and just around is the story. What's your story? How do you tell your story? So I really want to kind of get into that just from your perspective. And because you have so many perspectives, as an influencer yourself, as the helm of your business, but then also guiding other novice, beginner, intermediate, expert influencers to really build the foundation of their business and then being able to scale that. So what's in a story according to you?
What's in a story is what you're asking? Yeah, I think, a story is just your point of view, right? And that could be things that have happened in the past, right? Things that you've learned from, experiences that you've had, things that you've overcome that people can relate to and they can share in those that journey. I find a lot of times that, in entrepreneurship, and I think my personal platform is really about transparency, and kind of pulling back the curtain into the behind the scenes of entrepreneurship and things that I've overcome, because that narrative, that story of mine is not told enough, right? And so it also isn't told in a way that applies or told in a way that could only be mine, like it can't be repeated. You know what I mean? You are the only person that has your story. And so I think it's just, being able to share from experiences, being able to look at the lessons that you've learned and then explain how you got to those points. And then as you can continue to matriculate through life or through whatever you're doing and continuing to open up about those experiences, whether they're good or bad. And one thing that I learned, and that I share with our community, I share with my friends, is that you share from your scars and not your wounds, right? So it's there's this constant conversation about transparency. It's about, share, open up, tell everybody all your business, which is fine. For some people that works. It's like, it's happening to me right now. This is what's going on. I'm not that kid. You know what I mean? Like, I have to go through things, heal through things, understand, come to conclusions, gain wisdom about it, and then I'll tell you, right? that doesn't, and what it, in my opinion, it doesn't water down, you know, telling your story or sharing your narrative, but it helps you give a greater perspective. And so I think, you know, if you are, or if you're listening to this and you want to be an influencer, you're going to have to get comfortable with sharing your narrative and your story. Transparency is hard for a lot of us because we don't want to be vulnerable, right? But just a little tip is to share from your scars and not your wounds, and wait until you've healed from whatever and to open up about it.
Wow, I like that. Share from your scars, not your wounds. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
'cause I think having that perspective, the gain perspective, maybe it might, healing, and that lends to my next question. Healing, it's not, it can take years, for you to heal from something. It can take weeks, months, day, whatever, when you have to allow yourself the grace to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself, just the compassion,
Mm-hmm.
to just be a human being is so much pressure to be
Yeah.
something else, especially online, especially in the influencer and marketing space. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, I gotta get all of these followers, and you end up buying followers. It's like, what? That's not even, you're not building a real community if you're buying followers. But that's like, I didn't even know people were still buying followers, to be honest with you. I was just like, oh, everybody knows it's about building an authentic community, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
no, I
It's
was,
still, you know, even though you know that, right? For some people, I think there's still this constant like desire to have it now, you know? And I think one thing that I really love about like my parents' generation is like they were like the the slow cooker generation. You know what I mean? Like I mean, everything was put in the pot, and like they knew the longer it cooked and the slower it cooked, the better it came out, you know? And like, we're the microwave generation where we got to have everything now, 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 you know? And it's like, let's just be honest. Like, you know, some roast that was cooked in the slow cooker is much better than what was cooked in a microwave. And I think that is the best way I can explain it. It's just slow down and understand that like building a really strong foundation and being authentic about letting people come to you when it's your time to grow, or at your pace of growth, is far more respected than feeling like you need to acquire something in order to meet some type of status, right? And I mean, just take your time. One example that I give people is like, imagine your followers in a room, right? Like if you have 1,000 followers, imagine 1,000 people in a room and then getting up to speak in front of them.
I used that same analogy with my client a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I talked about it on an interview a couple of months ago, and she was like, wow, I've never thought of it that way. But truly, you know, like we have to stop getting so caught up into the comparison that we devalue what we really have. Like speaking to 100 people is huge. Put all your followers in a room and think about that. That is a huge responsibility, right? So, you know, don't discredit your influence because you're comparing it to somebody else's journey.
Mm. Come on, y'all. Could y'all please sign up for Cliquish right now?
We
Please.
would love to have y'all.
I mean, that is that's not only is it good advice, it's so insightful, so I can tell that you ain't new to this, you know what I'm saying? And on top of that, you've done the work to really just understand it's not about posting, whatever. It's about building a community and telling your story in a way that is authentic to you, because you can't be anybody else, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
And just owning it, and day by day, post by post, hashtag by hashtag,
Yeah.
Landing page by landing page. You know what I mean?
Brick by brick. That's what it is. You know, you're just laying the bricks, and it's like, don't expect to wake up tomorrow and the whole house is built. That's not how it works in real life, and that's not how it works in social, And there might be that piece of content that really does really well for you, and you do get a lot of growth from that. But most people and the average person is not growing like that. They're getting, you know, trickle growth, you know what I mean? And that's honest and it's authentic, and brands see it. If you are looking to monetize, they're able to track and see that, right? And your audience, your current audience sees that. And they're like, you know, what's going on here? And they're watching you because you are influencing them. So just be mindful.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Thank you for that. So
Sure.
speaking of influencer marketing, you know, after the Black Tuesday and everybody, you know, jumped ship, Jesus, so many accounts went down the drain, right? And so one thing in particular I want to talk to you about is, as a Black woman in the space, if you can share, what is your experience with like the Open Forward campaign, that whole thing, and really
Yeah.
being valued and really not getting paid as much? And you know, for me, you know, some of the brands that were sharing their numbers, I'm like, oh my God, this is not even Black owned, and you're marketing so well to African American women. Good job for you. But it's like, it's kind of insidious almost. It's kind of like, you don't have a Black woman on the team, but you're trying to, you know, influence my subconscious about what type of shade I should be wearing on my lips. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel good about that, you know? So
Yeah.
what is your experience in the space, especially in this post George Floyd society that we live in?
Yeah, absolutely. We felt called to do some research on this, Gabrielle. We, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, launched our Creators for Equality Resource Center, which is available on our website. And it's a free resource center for brands, PR, marketing professionals who are looking into how to be, one, more authentic when it comes to reaching the Black audience. Two, how to work with Black influencers and what is it that they're looking for. You know, three, it talks about performative diversity and how to avoid it. It talks about, you know, it pretty much lays it all out. You know, and so what we did was we had an intimate conversation with Black content creators, and we brought them to the table because, of course, I have my opinion of things, but I really believe it's our collective experiences that is extremely powerful. And so we brought together influencers who were in beauty, influencers who were in lifestyle and fitness and motherhood. And we had a collective conversation. It was facilitated by a diversity and inclusion facilitator, certified expert, who
Wow.
facilitated this conversation. And it served as like almost like a research uh, group. I can't think of the name of it right now, but a focus group. There we go. It served as a focus group where we were able to pull data and understand kind of what the collective consensus was.
Mm,
And from that, we learned, one, Black women content creators don't feel like they're getting paid enough,
right.
right? Some feel that they should be paid more because of the access to their audience, right? We talked about scarcity and abundance, right? And how there's this culture in the agency world where that takes advantage of Black women if they know that they don't get a whole lot of campaigns or a whole lot of opportunities, you know? So there's this culture that needs to be brought to light, addressed, and fixed. And the only way to do that is to bring Black people into the teams at the table as a part of the decision making, right? In order to have that point of view always at the forefront, right? Because yes, you could bring in people to consult on this project and that project, but who is the advocate who is constantly, you
Right.
know, bringing it up, who is constantly saying this doesn't work, you know, it's just kind of like that perspective that should always be there as far as accountability is concerned. But I also I do believe that teams should be more diverse, but I don't believe that it should all be on that Black person on the team
Right.
either. You know
Please.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's important for everybody to be mindful about it, for everyone to say, how would this, reframing this in the lens of Black women or brown women, or, you know, the minorities in general, and how would they perceive this? And asking that question, whether a Black person is sitting at the table or not, you know what I mean? And I think that's why a lot of brands miss the mark, because they're not even holding themselves accountable. Truly change. I was on a panel for influencer marketing organization, and what I said to them, the question was, where does it start? It starts with yourself. Yes, at your kitchen table. Yes, what happened, conversations in your home. Yes, at work. But if you don't start recognizing and checking yourself and your own privilege and asking, what could I do to be more conscious about my contributions to moving this movement forward? It's just not going to happen. And then once you do that, have conversations at home and then take it to work, right? And make sure you're paying Black women equally and fairly. You're paying, if you're not paying them, pay them. You know what I mean? Period. And bring Black creatives and Black producers and professionals to the table to be a part of the decision making.
Girl, so much.
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking too much.
Oh, this is so important.
Yeah, it's so important.
It's like, without you being so sure, first of all, and so confident, and so like, you're not gonna play me for a fool, that energy you bring, people are looking at that as their permission to speak up, because a lot of times we feel it's like we're waiting on the validation or the permission from some God in the sky to tell us this is the day to ask for a raise, or this is the day to send the email, or this is the day to do whatever, to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate the fire and the passion. I can tell this is something that you care about, you know, and not just only for yourself. You know, you built a whole brand around bringing women together and people together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sell their business and to understand the ins and outs and the mechanics. It's not just, you know, a facade. So definitely being able to advocate for yourself as a Black woman, you know, it's, as I become older, I understand how hard it was for my mother to grow up, just in general. It's just become so much more clear to me.
Mm-hmm. So much more respect for my mother.
I mean,
so much, yeah. I call my mama a lot more than I used to, just to say thank you. You know, it's just like, girl, okay.
As you get older, it's like, girl.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry for being so awful to you. I get it now. You know, there's so many moments, so many things that I observe, you know, where I'm just like, wow, this is not my reality because of my mom or because of my dad or because of my parents. You know what I mean? Like, I
didn't just wake up and somebody did this for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Or like, wow, this wasn't my reality because my parents made sure that, you know what I mean? Or like, my mom was rising in the ranks of corporate even despite, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much I knew that was happening that I didn't have context on. And now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, you endured this at work and you still managed to climb the ladder. You still managed to come home and be a mom. You still, you know what I mean? Like, the epitome of just Black grace, just just girl. Don't even get me started, okay? I love my parentals. You hear me? Love them.
Girl, I am, my mother, I text her today and she said, I said, hey, girlfriend, I miss you. What's going on?
Oh.
And hey, Gabby, I'm at work. I'm good. You know, I'm doing great. And
hey, yeah, but you're finally friends with your mom. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an adult now. I don't have curfews. I don't need your money. You know, like, let's just talk about life. Let's just learn from each other, you know? And I find that there's this ecosystem that we're creating between her and my sisters where it's just like, let's just pull from one another. Like, we're all just so different.
Yes.
It's just so dynamic and just.
And that's a blessing. It is a blessing. And I'm grateful. And I think, you know, for us having this conversation, a lot of times we don't take the time to show grace and gratitude for our lives and the things that we have. And just abundance. You mentioned that word earlier, just our abundance, and really taking stock. You know, at the end of the day, this is a 2020 America, but you and I are trying our damnedest to create space for people that look like us.
Yeah,
Here,
absolutely.
no matter what I gotta do.
Absolutely. It is.
I feel good about it. I'm like, yes, black girl. I mean, it's just like, yes, black girl.
Yeah. My grandfather was a foot soldier in the civil rights movement. And
I was in the military.
Oh, really?
Yes, girl. That's a whole.
Oh my gosh. So he fought in. Oh God. I always get them mixed up. I believe it's the Vietnam War, right?
Wow.
And after war, you know, could you imagine being a soldier in the 50s? Okay.
No.
He came home from all of the things that he endured as a black man in war to come home and become an entrepreneur, right? Like, he not only became an entrepreneur, but he bought and owned a brick and mortar, like,
whoa.
Like,
and you know, back
Barber
in the day, they wasn't even giving veterans, men of color, their benefits.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
And for him to.
Yes. Girl, let me finish. He started this brick and mortar business as a barbershop, which you know is the epicenter of black men and black men's conversations, especially back in the 50s, right? But then because he was an entrepreneur, he was able to be very vocal and instrumental in the civil rights movement because he didn't have to worry about getting fired. He was his own boss, right? So he was a part of the bus boycott. He was driving people to the polls, driving people to work, using his barbershop as a organizing location, right? Like, I mean, what he taught me is that when you start a business, it is about more than your bottom line. It is about how are you impacting the world? How are you using the advantage that you created for yourself to bring that full circle for people who need you, right? And so it would be irresponsible for me to see all of the risks that my grandfather took and not say, well, let me just sit back here and figure out how not to do that. You know what I mean? It's just irresponsible. But it's also really wild to know that that was his reality and this is mine. And here we are 50, 60 years later. I don't know, girl, I can't count. I think it's about 50 years. We're a long time later.
All right, I got you, girl.
And we are still having these same conversations. You know, it is mind-blowing. But you know what? I feel incredibly blessed that I have a platform, I have an audience who hears me, who believes in, you know, my point of view, and I don't take that lightly at all.
Shout out to your grandfather.
He is the bomb. And he was like 5 feet, so he was like short and like chocolate. And he was born on March 17th, so we called him our little chocolate leprechaun.
Oh Lord.
Yes, girl.
That is so beautiful. Let's talk relationships real quick. So I saw your big feature in Essence by Miss Mig. Thank you. Well, how important is it for you to establish those relationships? I don't know if you have a publicist, but just in general, your own, because, you know, they say Black women don't like to work together, but that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Oh my gosh.
So how important, thank you for that. How important is it for you to really just build intentionally, go out of your way to build with another Black woman?
You know, I would almost every stepping stone that I've taken to get to this level in my business, in my career, heck, in my life, has been as a result of a Black woman, right? So it's ingrained in me. It's my way of life. To me, it's what works. It's my reality. So if I see another Black woman, first of all, can we just talk about how Black women, whatever we bring to the table, wherever we are, we do it with excellence, right? We raise the bar in every single thing that we do, from our personal life to our professional life. So why does it not make sense for multiple Black women to bring together that genius? Like, oh, that's so powerful. We're so powerful by ourselves, but together, Gabby, it's insane. So all of that to say, there are plenty of Black women on my team, right, that I yield to all the time, but I also believe in the diversity of perspectives, right? So we have white women, we have Asian women, we have Indian women who are also advisors or contractors and members of our team as well. And that's what makes us so beautiful, you know? But I think it's just really important to not see people as a threat, or to think that you should operate from a place of lack because someone, you know, might have something you don't, right? That's the point. You know, none of us are whole in every area of our life. Okay, there will always be somebody, that man, woman, white man, Black, whatever, that has something you don't, that is better at something than you are, right?
Newsflash.
Right. The big vision is to the smartest leaders realize where they need assistance,
Yes.
where you are not good. And then they find people to help them in those areas, right? And so all of that to say, if you don't already, hire a Black woman. If you have not already, what are you waiting on? But I do believe relationships are important. Everything that I've ever achieved, none of it has been by myself. I didn't just wake up and say, oh, wow, look, you know, like it didn't come from that. And I believe in not only being grateful for those opportunities, but passing them along. And so you're creating this cycle of giving, you know what I mean? And everything that I give to someone else, I'm like, now pass this along to somebody else, you know? And like, we're just creating this, we're opening doors for each other. And I think that happens because you have relationships.
Yes.
And so, you know, I think it's important to not look at people for what they can give you.
Right.
And look at people for just being people, like just taking off all the titles, taking off all of the things, and figuring out like who they are, like what they love, like what makes them tick. You know, you'll find that connecting with people on a deeper level, which is something that's so important to me, is so much better than what can I get from you? What can you give me?
Absolutely. I read once that you talked more about networking across versus up. You said you was a big inspiration.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what this is. A lot of times we live in this world that is so shallow, and all we see is the outside of people. All we see is what they post on Instagram. All we see is all of this BS, in my opinion. And we never really get to know people and the skills and their energy and just what's real about them. And I think we do that to our own detriment. You know, I think that, you know, because we live in such a shallow place, you have to do the work to understand that human beings are much more than what they wear or how they wear their hair or what they look like and all of that. Once you get past that, you have no problem networking across, because now you understand you can learn from anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And like at the end of the day, we're all just humans. Everybody's messed up. Everybody got problems. And like, you know, I think whether you're networking across and networking up, right? Like, you will be surprised at just how the same you are as somebody you think is so far from you. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just how I always approach things. I recommend it to everyone. And I just have a genuine interest in learning about people and learning from people. I'm an elders girl as well. So I love like older Black women. A lot of them are my mentors. I seek them out to mentor me. And it's just something about that hand on my shoulder that, you know, it creates a personal relationship, you know, and these people become more than just a mentor. They become a friend, they become a confidant, they become, you know, and like, we need those things. Some people will look up and they're like, wow, I have this huge network, but I don't feel connected to anybody. There's nobody I can call. I feel so alone. And it's because, you know, there's this surface approach to meeting people. Like, people are open to new friends and new confidants and new, you know, brunch dates or whatever, you know, but you have to like, be genuinely interested in other people. And that's what I found has been the key for me.
Mm, girl, can we do a part two or?
I get that all the time.
You are so amazing.
Oh,
On and offline, everybody. Just so we all get that out in the open. She is exactly the energy, the spirit is there. I can feel it over here. Thank you so much.
oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh, this has been great. This has been one of my favorite interviews to
Oh,
date. Like, seriously.
yes.
Yes, I just enjoyed this conversation. I feel like it was so necessary, and, you know, thank you for having it and hosting me.
Girl, for sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I'll
Of
talk
course.
to you soon.
Okay. Take care.